I give all my respect to the audience, and I appreciate the audience coming to my boxing fights and cheering me, especially family and friends.
Sure. That's very different. Yeah.
But speaking truthfully, I don't give a shit about the audience when I box. Like I don't just give a crap about who's watching and the intensity that they give me. Of course, it's there. I do acknowledge the audience. I love the audience. However, when I'm in my boxing shoes, going to a boxing ring, I forget about the audience. Being in the 5th grade, 7th grade, I was normally smaller than the other guys in my classes. So yeah, I felt like I did not accept bullying easily, you know. And I would normally fight back and get beat up, although I'm fighting back. And you know, being in that phase, it pushed me to learn boxing. And even, like, to be honest, like, coming from a background where all of my siblings and my brothers, my cousins were older than me, so being in that environment made me more mature than the people in my age, or at least that's how I felt. So accepting being in the same mentality of the people who are in my age in school, they would take joking as a normal thing. They would, you know, be kids, while I was more of I had that, I'd say, I felt more mature, so I wouldn't accept you know, kids playing around with me, or, you know, pushing me, or you know, like just messing around or bullying me. So I would fight back on the most basic things, and I didn't like it. I didn't like that I was smaller and everything. So I took on boxing. I said I wanted to learn something that would allow me to defend myself physically, and that was in school.
And how did you find boxing? Did you not? I mean, did somebody introduce it to you? Gal Ali.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, actually, my brother, he was 5 years older, and he used to do Muay Thai at first.
That's exactly we mentioned earlier, by the way, off camera, and how he chose boxing rather than any other industry or martial art.
Yeah. So at first it was Muay Thai. It was not boxing. Boxing was not famous in Bahrain at all.
Yeah.
Especially back in 2013, 2012, boxing was not existing in Bahrain. So the only sports the martial arts that were famous was Muay Thai and other martial arts as well. So my brother was doing Muay Thai. He was 5 years older than me. I was always interested in fighting. So I went on with him to the gym a couple of times, and then I actually became a member in a gym. And then 2 years later, we converted from Muay Thai to boxing, which was a complete new sport. And I found that boxing was, it just happened. Like, I went through the path, and boxing stayed. And then my brother stopped boxing 5 years later. And then I continued boxing. So he stopped boxing, he went to another hobby, and I took on the sport.
And now looking back on it, what you thought boxing was, الافلام, movies, TV shows, boxing matches, and what it is in reality. How much of it was different from your expectations?
Interesting. So to be honest, I wasn't inspired from movies to box. I wasn't the type of person who was inspired from movies to take on boxing. It's just weird. It just happened naturally, you know. I wasn't even into other sports.
Can you even be a boxer if you don't like Rocky? I feel like that's a cardinal sin.
Exactly. It just I wasn't in that path of, you know, getting inspired from movies. But after boxing, I started watching boxing movies. It wasn't the other way around.
Okay.
Yeah. And to be honest, boxing movies is nothing like boxing. Like, most of it is just
nonsense,
to be honest. Like, it doesn't reflect the true sport. At least most of the movies, in my opinion.
Dan, can you look up who was the one who's the main actor again in Rocky? I forgot his name. Do you know he wrote that film?
Who wrote that film?
Yeah, he wrote it. Sylvester Stallone.
Oh, he wrote it. Okay.
That makes sense, right? When you look at,
I've heard that actually.
yeah, when you look at him and then you really see that movie, you're like, that's Sylvester Stallone. That's definitely, he's the one who definitely wrote that.
Well, he's a legend, to be honest, and Rocky is definitely.
I agree.
Boxing classic movie.
I mean, it's a good movie, not so much, I think, a good boxing movie. You know, I don't think it shows really the life of a boxer.
Yeah, but to be honest, it's the best out of them, I'd say.
Really?
Yeah, because the story behind it, the classic approach is just, it makes it different.
Have you tried any of the Rocky training montages ever?
Never.
Never.
Not yet, at least.
Not yet. You haven't beaten meat or gone to like some Siberian country to cut wood?
Well, when I have to cut weight for my fights, when I run, and specifically in the winter, I always imagine myself as Rocky. So
no, really?
Subconsciously, I think.
No.
Yeah.
Do you have that soundtrack playing in your head?
Oh yeah, that happens. Yeah, of course.
I mean, I know that you're right now, mashallah alayk, you're in the National League. Congratulations. How was that transition from going from, hey, you know what, I'm doing this as a hobby, it's for myself, and then representing your country?
That's an interesting question, actually. What happened is that the boxing national team was only established in 2019.
Sure.
So I've been boxing since 2013. Between those years, I had two major gyms that I was involved in. The first one was JD Boxing. I was in JD Boxing training from 2013 to 2015. Then I switched to Bahrain Boxing Club. Now, Bahrain Boxing Club was interesting because it was the turning point from being a Bahraini boxing enthusiast / hobby boxer to being something of a, let's say, having more skill in my game.
So you don't consider yourself as a pro?
Oh, no, I'm not a professional.
You don't consider yourself in your head that you're professional in your craft?
I'd say when you say professional, there are two meanings. You see, it could be professional boxing, and the other one is being professional in terms of representing yourself.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Number two, I would say.
Number two, yes, of course, definitely. I always take my sport seriously, and I didn't have the entertainment as something I was really hooked up with. So boxing was my entertainment, was everything to me, and then switching and having international exposure from my coach Kamiso, who's an Olympian himself. He was coaching me, and he brought to me the professional,
the passion,
mindset, and being beyond average as a boxer. So he came to me with that mindset, and he gave to me that through his teachings and through his classes. And of course, that was because of my mentor. He was a Bahraini gym owner. His name is Tariq Abdurrahman, and he's the one who initiated that process of scholarship, of sponsoring me as a boxer, and allowing me to get the exposure and everything. So big thanks to my coach Tariq Abdurrahman, and also my big brother Coach Kamiso, who brought me from a level A to a level B and C and etc. Yeah.
MashaAllah. Because how different was it for you going from 2013 to 2019? You started to get, and you go, hey, you know what? I want to take this more from a hobby, from something I enjoy, and I want to now make something out of it. I want to, become famous, get the fame, or become that skill level. Because that must have been such a transition mentally, right? To go from, I like doing this, to now I'm dedicating my life to this. You know what I mean? Because you start eating like a boxer, you start living like a boxer, you sleep like a boxer, you watch matches like a boxer, you know?
It's an interesting thing, actually. I've never thought of it this way. Like, when you mention it, it seems like I have actually transitioned my mind from being something to being something else and better. But what actually happens is that the transition was really natural, especially if you're boxing over like 13, 14, how many years? For example, 8 years. That consistency would automatically shift your mindset from being an amateur to having it as a professional. Not the first meaning, the second.
Sure.
So it just happened naturally with the consistency, and obviously with the support of other people who recognize this talent. Having those two things will allow you to be consistent. So I'd say consistency was the major key of growing me up as an athlete, and having the mindset and staying up at my game.
And how difficult was it to convince that? Because I cannot imagine that was an easy conversation to have with your family, of saying, "Hey, you know what? I believe I can achieve something here. I believe I can really become something extraordinary. Go to the Olympics, get to everything else." Because I can imagine there was a lot of pushback.
Definitely.
I can't imagine any father, mother, sister, brother would want to see their child on stage being having to fight.
Definitely. I'd say it was always a challenge to convince my parents about continuing this path of boxing. At the same time, I thank them so much for giving me the freedom and the
opportunity.
Exactly, the opportunity to box. And they were saying those as comments like, why should you box? Stop boxing. And especially
ليش ما تروح المكتب اجلس
بالضبط
عندك AC ارتاح.
أكيد. But at the same time, they were supporting me. So their words was saying something else, while their actions was saying something else. So I really thank them for that. Actually, my mother brought me to the boxing gym the first day. So
I'm sure she regrets that now.
That's the thing. So although her comments, obviously she's the mother, and any mother would have that care towards their children, but she allowed me to box. She allowed me to go and to venture through that. Yeah, fantastic. They always supported me, I'd say.
Fantastic. Now going and looking into the future, do you, when you think about the Olympics, how much pressure does it put on you? Are you worried about making the grade? Or is that something you constantly think about in your mind? Or do you go, hey, you know what, this is my path and I'm just going to keep walking it? You know what I mean?
Interesting, yeah. I'd say it has been my aim throughout my boxing journey, especially starting from 2015, where I've seen that I've received some, let's say, recognition by being sponsored, etc. It made me have a purpose. It made me have a goal. And
it became real.
That goal was the Olympics. Obviously, it didn't happen yet. It's still a goal while we're talking. But I do have a feeling that it's a worthwhile goal, and I would definitely give it my best shot.
I agree.
To make it.
Because I try to put myself always in the guest shoes, and I always try to think about, like, if I would have to go back to myself at 2013, or to yourself in 2013, and say, hey, you know what, one day you're going to aim to get at the Olympics. I'm sure at 2013 you'll be like
exactly. But down the line you start
dreaming
that goal as a reality, and you can see yourself being there. So, but the thing about the Olympics is not, I think some people might underestimate it, because it's really challenging to make it to the Olympics, especially if you're coming from a country that boxing it hasn't been here since a long time. Like, we're talking about 2019, the national team was established, and you talk about other countries, especially in our continent, Asia. You've got countries like Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, these Stan countries. They had boxing since hundreds of years, and especially with the Soviet Union was really known about their upbringing of the sport of boxing, and getting that culture throughout the continent. And the Soviet Union were responsible for the Cuban development in their boxing. And I'm talking here about top nations in the sport of boxing. So I wanted to remember my point, actually.
So you're messaging about how it's difficult for a small nation.
Thank you. So coming from a country where boxing is a newborn, it's so challenging to make it to somewhere like the Olympics. But with the right team, with the right support, with the proper planning and preparation, everything is possible. But at the same time, that's a goal that I cannot control. I've heard that from a really good TED talk, actually. He said that if you want to make your goals happen, stop thinking about your goals, because your goals is out of your control. and I can feel the same way with the goal of the Olympics. I feel like this goal is out of my control. However, all I can do, or everybody could do, to have a better chance at actualizing their goal is to change our behavior now. So, okay, sure, I'm not sure if I'm going to make it to the Olympics. However, I can behave in a way right now that will align the opportunity that I could have from this point in time that could lead me to reaching my ultimate goal.
You know what I find very interesting when you say that? It reminds me very much of a movie called Pumping Iron, if you've ever seen it. It has Arnold Schwarzenegger in it, and it was a documentation about Arnold Schwarzenegger, his path on becoming Mr. Olympia. I think number 4 or 3. I don't know which one it was. I think Dan is looking it up right now. It came out in 1973, 1977, close to it. And it was following his second, major competition, Mr. Olympia. So Arnold Schwarzenegger, this is the reason why I bring it up. When his biggest competitor at the time was Lou Ferrigno. Lou Ferrigno was sitting having lunch with his dad. Arnold comes in, sits down on the table with him and his dad, and says to Louis, "Hey, you know what? I already told my mom I won." Before the competition even started. He said, "You know what? I told my mom I already won. She was really happy, everything else," and just playing mind games with Louis.
Wait a minute, who's Louis? Is he
Lou Ferrigno? He used to play the Hulk in the in the TV show back in the day. That really bad TV show. Can you look up the Lou Ferrigno Hulk, if you don't mind, Dan? Hulk and then Lou Ferrigno. You have to put that in.
Yeah.
In the what?
Lou Ferrigno. Lou. And then Ferrigno. Yeah, and then just look at images. Yeah.
Oh, wow. That's okay, I can see that. Okay, I can see that.
So Arnie went up to him while he was having lunch with his dad and just pissing on his leg and just making him playing mind games with him and saying I'm so sure that I'm gonna win, that I've already told my mom, she was really happy, blah blah blah, so I'm not gonna disappoint her, so I'll make sure I'm gonna win. Just he had this like very weird mindset of always I know that I'm gonna do it. Khalas.
Nice, yeah.
There was no maybe in Arnold Schwarzenegger's vocabulary.
No maybe. And did he actually won?
Yeah, he won.
So he basically spoke his reality before it happened.
Exactly. He manifested it, as girls like to say these days.
Wow. Manifested it. Yeah.
But yeah.
Interesting.
So that would be like Arnold's technique. He'd always like try to play mind games with you. So when the competition day comes in, you're more focused on what Arnold is doing than focusing on yourself and how well you're performing. Isn't that amazing?
Yeah. What you mean in the perspective of you being his competitor, or
as his competitor? Because him and Lou would have to stand on stage
and compete
on like different poses, all this kind of stuff. You really should watch the movie. It's really good.
Okay, interesting. So he caused Lou to focus on Arnold.
Exactly.
Not winning.
Not exactly. Then him winning.
Okay. Which is interesting.
And it totally destroyed his ability to compete. He did the worst that he did in a long time in that competition. It's fantastic. It's really, really fantastic.
That's really interesting, actually.
And
there's a psychological kick to it.
It really shows you how much of a bastard Arnold was.
And that.
Yeah. He did all kinds of weird stuff, but we're getting away from boxing.
Go ahead. That's something that, I can see that I'm not like Arnold in this situation, because I like to be realistic. Some people might call it pessimistic, but to be honest, I like saying that I would do my best to make my goals happen. At the same time, I do admit that I do not have total control over my goals, because I can have a goal, but it may not happen because of external reason that was not actually my cause.
I totally understand where you're coming from, Ali, but I think that has more to do with our culture in the Middle East.
Yeah.
I don't think we're I don't know what the right word. We're not as arrogant as other cultures are, where they can make statements like, "I'm gonna win. Doesn't matter what happens. I'm gonna win." You know, there's only that. There's no if. There's no maybe. There's no negativity. There's no pessimism. It's just that. It's that. And there's you find that in very much, not so much in Asia, but you find that more in Western cultures. USSR is a great example of that, right?
Yeah.
There's a really good documentary I'll share with you as well that goes around the USSR competition on powerlifting.
Mm-hmm.
And can you check that up, Dan? I think it was it was during the Cold War. So just type in Cold War, powerlifting, USSR, Olympics. So the reason I bring it up is...
That Hulk is ugly. But anyway.
Yeah, I know, right? Look at that haircut.
So yeah, about that.
So can you tell me what year it was? 1955.
Uh-huh.
Okay. So the reason I bring it up is because the Soviets at the time, in order to win, invented the first doping mechanisms. GHG, testosterone, blood doping, all this kind of stuff. And the whole movie goes around how the USSR, the Soviets, did it, killed it, defeated everyone. And then 4 years later, so the American trainer got the Soviet trainer drunk and started asking him about, like, what secrets, blah, blah, blah. What was your training schedules, you know?
Cool.
And just kissing his ass
Yeah.
to get the information about what they did. And then the next year, the US really went hard at it and then won. Yeah, it's a really, really, I'll share it with you. It's a really interesting documentary where it follows the coaches and they talk about the 1950s and how that exactly happened. But again, that's again, like the athletes at the USSR just had that mentality, you know, we're going to come home with gold or we're not coming home.
Yeah. I can see that.
Yeah.
And actually, even in boxing, I've heard that the Russian national team have been, I think, stopped from one of the Olympics from competing because of the doping. So it was a significant problem they were facing. And I'm not sure, but it's probably one of the reasons why 2028 Olympics boxing would be off the list of the 2028 Olympics. And I think it's to do with the corruption that's going on with the whole IBA, which is the International Boxing Association. I think one of the corruption is the doping that's going on. So it's an interesting thing to look at, and it's not fair to the athletes, you know. It's just not fair.
How do you think is the best way of managing it? If you were put into charge, you know, suddenly Ali here, he's head of Olympics, and he's being asked now, Habibi, how do we manage this problem? We have some nations that don't want to play fair, other nations who are trying to play fair. How would you try to solve it?
Well, I do not know.
Sorry to put you on the show.
That's
on the spotlight.
Would be the first answer. I do not know, but I think I have to work with someone who knows. That's number one. But I'd say something like putting assessments, many of them, you know, putting a lot of assessments on the athletes who are going to compete, making sure before the fight, after the fight, and between the fight, while they're sleeping, everything. Assess them in terms of if they're doping or not. And yeah, I mean that would be something that I would do, and if I was in that case, assessments and just having the results there.
If I was put into charge, I would split the league into two.
Yeah.
And I would say, hey, you know what? You can do whatever the fuck you want with your body. You go in this league. And hey, you know what? If you want to complete honorably and just on your pure ability, this league, khalas.
Exactly.
That's the easiest way of handling it.
Yeah.
And if you're found cheated on the honorable league, then not only are you banned, but you're banned from life. And the country isn't allowed to come in for whatever, 5 or 10 years, something like that.
That would be fair. And, you know, like, especially when there's this kind of cheating in a sport like boxing, man, it's not really funny, because those guys are like boxing is not a game like basketball or football.
I agree.
We are fighting, you know. It's not a game. Like my brain is going through the risk each time I step into a fight. And yes, there could be something that would be serious in terms of having it as damage, you know, like a brain damage or something. That's a risk every time I step in the ring. So cheating in that sport is highly, like, it should not be allowed. And there should be strict rules, especially for boxing, because I don't know if you have heard about this, but you don't play boxing. Yes, you play tennis, you play football, you play basketball, but you don't play boxing. Boxing is a tough sport in itself, and it's really dangerous. So having like strict rules going throughout the sport that would protect the boxers against cheating, obviously against these doping behind the scenes that's going on, it's really important, because the safety of the boxers is the first priority. So what do you think about that?
I'm with you with 100% behind that. I think the safety of the boxer is obviously the key in any kind of industry or sport, because right, the only way you're going to sell tickets from a business perspective, if he's around long enough to be something people would want to see, right? Exactly. If he's burned out after 3 matches, then what's the point, right?
What's the point? Exactly.
Right. Then you might as well go do UFC or some other sport, right? Yep. Well, so I'm with you 100% on that. I don't know what the right way of doing it is. A lot of people talk about that they should reintroduce bare knuckle boxing, because that would mean that people won't hit on the face. Because think about it, if it's just your knuckles, you don't want to hit something that is just bone.
Yeah.
That's the argument in saying that it's because of the gloves itself that it allows for face blows and stuff like that. Prior to, I think, when was gloves introduced into boxing? I think it was 1920s, something around there. Prior to that, all boxing was bare knuckle, and there was very, very little face blows involved.
So it was mostly
body blows? Yeah, and liver. Which is not fun at all. But, you know, it was a different era back then.
Well, I believe bare knuckle boxing is being a thing now.
The first is 1743. My mistake. But when did it become like just common? Not when they started like putting padding, because that could be for training or whatever.
I believe a significant change was with the, if I'm not mistaken, the Queensberry rules. Was the rules that were involved to protect the boxers in the professional careers. But
yeah, do you wear headgear personally?
Oh yeah, 100%. Especially for my sparring sessions, headgear is a must. Having the full boxing gear is, I'd say, it's really important for not only for boxers, for anyone. So if you, Hamad, wanted to do boxing. Which I do personal training, by the way. However, if you would
look at that sales pitch, beautifully done.
It's a quick
just pitch, a little there. I love it.
So I would always say to my clients, whatever boxing level you're at, you will have to invest in the best quality of boxing equipment that you can bring, and that would be your boxing headgear, your boxing mouth guard, your groin guards, and your boxing boots. A good quality boxing gloves, I'd say 14 ounce to 16 ounce, with at least 180 centimeters of hand wraps. So investing in a good boxing equipment before training is a must for anybody who wants to take the sport, or even just to box for fun.
What do you think of what's the right word, of your, not competitors, but your teammates or other people in your association who don't want to wear headgear during spas and stuff like that because they think to themselves, hey, you know what, I don't want to have something on my face, or I'm too lazy, forget about it.
It's amateur.
It's amateur, yeah?
I think it's amateur.
I'd agree with you.
However, I sometimes refuse to wear head guards, and it's because the head guards are messed up. So sometimes I would forget my own head guard. So I would have to where another person's headguard or just a headguard that's lying in the gym, which is not a good quality headguard. So I would refuse to wear it in that particular situation. But most of the time, I always invest in good quality headguards, good quality boxing gloves, and they go a long way. So yeah.
So we were just talking about the life cycle of a boxer. I used to have a university friend who was from Kazakhstan, and he was under 16 Kazakhstan champion.
Mm-hmm.
He was telling me that during his path, the trainer was what's the right word? Terrible, to the point of not caring about the further life of the boxer. That when he broke his knuckle on his ring finger, the trainer just told him, "Who gives a shit? Wrap it and keep fighting." And I think he won with a broken knuckle, and he was saying that could have ended my career potentially.
Yeah.
The guy did. Guy didn't care, because for him what was important is that he was the trainer that trained the under 16 champion in Kazakhstan.
Yeah.
But he obviously didn't give a shit about the athlete itself. And that's what made him quit boxing.
I do get that some trainers won't give a shit about their
Athlete.
boxers. And there's a fine line between not giving a shit completely or that you want your boxers to be tough and, to persevere those injuries that might come along the way. But at the end of the day, boxing, it has its own occupation hazard of, getting injuries. It's not something that a boxer would be surprised from, But I'd say it's the boxer's responsibility to take care of himself. That means, when it comes to, I'm not sure if that person that you've mentioned, your friend from Kazakhstan, did that happen to him in the fight or did that happen to him in training?
During training.
Ah, okay.
And they still the guy just said, "I don't give a shit."
Yeah.
You keep punching.
Yeah. Well, if you're talking about a nation like Kazakhstan, they're leading in terms of boxing
and brutality. I think both of them.
So they are leading in that aspect, but that doesn't mean that they have the best practices. And I'd say, like, investing in your longevity in the sport by taking care of your safety, and having that as your priority is your responsibility. Because at the end of the day, the coaches, the people who are around you, they won't, let's say, necessarily be with you in the hospital for 2 weeks if you had to. They will come for a day just to check and, as part of their, responsibility, but they won't experience the recovery time, the times where, for example, if you have an injury in your shoulder, you would be trying to sleep every day and not feel the pain. So you would go through all of these, and that's a small injury. What about a bigger, more serious injury like a brain damage or etc.? So I think it's the boxer's responsibility to take care of their health, and they have to take it seriously.
And now from health, I want to also ask you, almost leading into it, which form of boxing do you personally train in, and do you train your clients then potentially in? Southpaw, if they're left-handed, I imagine.
Okay. So, the first session will be, I'll be assessing the client.
So let's go first with your personal, and then we'll talk about the client, just so it makes more sense, if that makes sense. Okay.
You mean personally?
So which personal style of boxing do you do?
Oh, okay.
And then which one? Do you get what I'm saying? It makes more sense.
Yeah. Well, I'm a right-handed normal person, so that means if I'm right-handed, then I'm an Orthodox fighter. An Orthodox boxer would have their lead foot and their lead hand in front of them, and their rear hand and their rear leg would be behind. So the reason why we stand this way in boxing is because it makes your body more narrow, which means you can get hit less. Instead of standing square and straight, then you're a bigger target for your opponent. So when you stand in that way, you are a smaller target. So it makes the hits more challenging for the opponent to hit you, because you're just a more narrow, smaller target. And in terms of balance, we stand this way because, if a push comes in, if someone pushes you from the sides or from front, you'd be more stable with your legs in that position. And so I'm an Orthodox fighter. That's how I stand. If you're a Southpaw, the opposite. You would have your right and your leg and your right leg and your right hand in front of you, and your left hand and your left leg behind you. And it's strange, because you would think that, if I'm right-handed, then that means my right hand should be the dominant hand in front of me. But no, it's not the case. It's the opposite. And
that's in order to lead on with a hook, or with okay.
So your jab will always be your
jab,
your front hand.
Okay.
And how I go about my clients is that I first assess them in terms of, are you right or left-handed, and then after that we proceed with the style of boxing, which is either Orthodox or Southpaw. I prefer my clients to be Orthodox, to be honest, because I'm an Orthodox myself, so it makes life easier. But if they're Southpaw, then I would adjust myself to them.
Is it, from your experience, is it for, when you're Orthodox, more difficult to fight someone that is also Orthodox, or more difficult to fight someone who is Southpaw? Because you're suddenly marrying somebody, right?
Yeah. It's more hard to fight someone who's the opposite boxing style.
Yeah.
So if I'm Orthodox and you're Southpaw, I'd be like, oh shit. It won't be a big problem, but it will be harder to deal with, because
you have less experience, I imagine, with it.
Not less experience. Probably one of the reasons, but not the major reason. The major reason is because, I'm more used to fighting a person who's an Orthodox himself, and going to a person who's Southpaw might change the style of attack I would be going. The choice of attack, the choice of defense would vary. For the Southpaw, they're accustomed to fighting Orthodox, so they kind of have an advantage, which leads me to Vasil Lomachenko, who is he's a professional boxer from Ukraine. He was the best amateur boxer from the Olympics, and then when he went to the professional boxing, his father brought him up. His father was also his coach, and he wanted his son Lomachenko to fight as a Southpaw, although he was a normal right-handed person. But he knew that being a Southpaw would cause trouble to other boxers. They're not really used to fighting Southpaws. So he made sure that he had that style since he was young, a Southpaw boxer. So, and it really helped him. Like he's one of the best known boxers today in our generation.
Amazing. Yeah. Amazing. And what do you do with your rhythm? Do you try to lead the rhythm, or do you try to follow the rhythm and then see when you can get to an opponent?
With the rhythm, can I know what do you mean exactly?
So usually, as it's almost like boxing, from my understanding, very humbly, it's almost like a dance, right? Where you try to see how that person is moving, where is he trying to go with, and you normally know, hey, if he's doing one or two jabs, he's probably going to come with a hook, right? Or he's just going to keep flanking you and trying to create more distance, so he can back off to then make you lead in, and then go in for wide or for a hook. So that's why I always wonder that from when you're fighting with someone, do you try to set the rhythm and be on the attack and defensive, play with mentally with them, or do you follow their rhythm and then look for where an opening is and then try to strike on it?
Yeah, that depends on the boxer who's in front of me.
Okay.
So if the boxer who's in front of me is taller than me, there will be a different approach to that opponent.
Of course.
So basically, the rule book goes this way. A taller boxer, the way I would be fighting that person is I would be closing up to them to eliminate the reach advantage that they would have. So I would close the distance, apply more head movement, and be a harder target to catch while I'm closing the distance, and then focus on bent arm shots, which are basically body shots, hooks, and uppercuts. I won't be using straight arm shots like jabs and cross, because he's a taller opponent, and he would want to throw those shots, but not me. If I'm fighting a shorter opponent, I would be utilizing my jab and cross a lot, which are straight punches. And it would not be very smart for me to go for a bent arm shot, because I would be closing the distance, which will not serve me because I'm the taller boxer. I want that distance. And that's the second type of boxer. And then if you fight someone who is in your own height, then you can vary them. You know, you can go inside, box inside, body shots, hooks, uppercuts, and then you can also stay medium range to long range.
Do you do ever any kind of wide swings as well, or is that too dangerous, do you feel like, and it doesn't have any real benefit?
Wide swings,
Meaning
rolling?
Meaning rolling or going for a complete out? Because that opens you up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're talking about those punches that happens in bars, right?
Yeah.
Like when a fight goes on. No.
Hardly ever. I mean,
Yeah.
famously, you have the cross guard, but it's not very popular anymore. You have the peekaboo style, which is obviously what Mike Tyson became famous for his famous.
Yeah.
Because what Mike Tyson was also very famous for is wides. Because when he would find an opening, especially in a cross, he would maneuver his entire force of that huge ass body to knock you on that floor.
Yeah. Exactly. But throwing, if you wing your arms, trying to catch an opponent, that's not a really good way to go towards it. Because imagine if you miss, what would happen is
you're screwed. Yeah.
Yeah. If you miss, you will basically twist with the punch, and then that will make you in a position where you'll be really vulnerable to any attack that would come, because you'll be out of shape, your hands will be down, you'll be exposed. So not a good way. Throwing hooks, well, it still happens. Even though if you're a trained boxer, you might sometimes swing and then you might miss, and it happens a lot. So we train a lot to how to control our punches. So I remember one of my coaches, I remember working with me specifically on this aspect, which is basically he gives me a target for a hook, and then he kind of makes me miss purposefully, and then he asked me to control my punch, not to swing, not to twist after missing the shot. So it's really advised to control your shots, so that even if you miss, you won't be like swinging your arm. So an element of control is really important while you throw the punches, because balance is everything, and once you lose that balance, you're on
your ass. Yeah.
Exactly.
Do you have to do a lot of running on sand and stuff like that, or is that just complete nonsense?
Well, it's advisable, especially if you're approaching a fight, if you're approaching a tournament, you need to increase the intensity. So training on sand, beach sand, etc. That would build your endurance, will build your basically your athleticism. But you won't do it on a daily basis, Okay. And that's the thing. Most people think if you want to be a boxer, you have to train really hard every day, really intense. That's not the case, to be honest. I feel like in my current situation, because I had a fight, I was supposed to fight this month, but got cancelled because of my injury. So what I'm doing is I'm just maintaining my let's say my conditioning by running every day, slow and steady runs every day, shadow boxing once in a while, just to stay in that.
You already answered my next question, because I was exactly going to ask you about shadowboxing.
Exactly. Yeah. So shadowboxing is one of the best ways to stay sharp and to it's an alternative to running, I'd say, because you can go for 3 minutes. Imagine an opponent in front of you, throw hundreds of punches in those 3 minutes, and you won't just be throwing them. You would have a strategy. So you would think of, for example, I'm going to focus on jab, and then I'm going to slip and come back with a punch. So you would focus on that for 3 minutes. And you do burn calories while you're shadow boxing. And yeah, I mean, the point is you won't need to be really intense in your training if you're a boxer. You won't have to kill yourself every day in training. I like the Cuban way of training. When they spar really lightly. They won't go all in every single day. If you see them sparring, nobody gets hurt. They just literally touch. And look at them in the Olympics. They convert a lot of gold medals in the Olympics. So it's all about having consistency in training, and that's why safety is really important. and to enjoy your way through training. You don't need to kill yourself every day, you know? To just slow and steady runs every day, have the mindset of learning, and that's it.
Can you talk about how different it is compared to fighting, you know, an opponent or doing hard training than it is to fight in a live match? Because I imagine mentally there must be a huge difference.
Huge difference, definitely. So you're talking about training and then a real fight.
Yeah. Or if sometimes on certain shows you might have an opponent that shows up at your gym who just wants to do a spa, right? That you're potentially going to fight, you know, 6 months to a year down the line, right? And they just want to gauge each other's skill and seeing where your weaknesses are. Not every boxer takes on the match. Some of them do and some of them don't. So, yeah.
I've never experienced that specific example where they bring a boxer in and then... Do you mean that boxer would be my opponent in the future?
Yes, potentially.
Okay. No, that I never experienced that. However, I sparred many people. I've sparred different boxers from different nations. Especially when I go to my international fights abroad, we tend to spar with other nations. So with other nations' boxers. So I'd say there's a major difference between like training and sparring, and you know, having a conditioned sparring, which is basically, okay, Ali just throw jabs and Mohammed just defend. That's a conditioned spar.
Sure.
There's a whole new different mindset that should be developed if you're looking to fight, because what happens in fight, I don't know if you have heard that, but Mike Tyson once said everybody has a plan until they get hit. So you might have the best strategy in the world, but once you step in there to fight and your opponent lands a clean shot to your forehead that knocks your head back, then you would start thinking of running.
Yeah.
And that's where the psychological aspect comes. That's hardwired in our human brain, fight or flight mode. When you're in fight or flight mode, everything changes. You would be everywhere in the boxing ring. You would be in your sixth sense. You know, you'll see punches coming from miles away, and you'll be really switched on. So, or the other hand, you might get beat up. You might be really bad in the ring. So once you're in that zone, you will have to control yourself. You'll have to control your mind. You'll have to be really focused. And a lot of how do I go about it is that when I perform in my best fights are the moments where I've entered, I'd say, the flow mode. Once I'm in the flow mode, I feel like I'm water. So when emotions are not really controlling me, when I know I will get hit, or in the cases where I got hit while I'm standing my ground in that boxing fight, I still manage to control myself and to put on my best game plan. And that is, of course, developed by the way you're training and everything. But once you're in the fight, you have to be a different avatar. You would have to step into your higher self, whatever you want to call it. But once you fight, it's not a game. It's really, it's scary for any human to be in that situation. So you'll have to be composed and ready to fight. So it's different.
Because I spoke to a few boxers in the UK, and they said to me, and I don't know whether or not you can agree to this or you think it's differently, they said that one of the most scariest aspect in the match isn't so much facing your opponent. He said the energy, that like the vibe, the ambiance is when you walk into that ring. These are like B, C level, but the bigger the crowd is, it's not so much that you're scared of being embarrassed in front of people or anything like that. He said the crowd actively, they want to see blood. You know what I mean? They're there to see a fight. You know, and they were describing to me, it's such a weird intensity that when you walk in and you have all these people who just, you know, it really messes with your head.
Yeah.
And that's how they described it. They said they could almost feel like people want to see somebody get killed. That's how they described it. They said that the audience is there because they don't give a shit. You can agree, disagree. They said they don't give a shit about who's a better fighter, who is this. They're just there to see a show and they want to see blood. That's how they described it to me. And it really like made you take a step back and go,
Yeah.
oh shit, yeah.
To be honest, I give all my respect to the audience, and I appreciate the audience coming to my boxing fights and cheering me, especially family and friends.
Sure, that's very different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But speaking truthfully, I don't give a shit about the audience when I box. Like I don't just give a crap about who's watching and the intensity that they give me. Of course, it's there. I do acknowledge the audience. I love the audience. However, when I'm in my boxing shoes, going to a boxing ring, I forget about the audience.
Oh, really?
They don't exist to me. Yeah.
That is so interesting. Okay.
Yeah, they don't exist to me. I don't even care about. Yeah, I don't care who's in the audience until after the fight. You know. So they might be cheering me. They might be calling my name and everything, but I would just completely ignore that. You have to have that tunnel vision. You know. When you enter the ring, you have to have that tunnel vision. The only person you see is your opponent, and the second person you see is your coach, and that's it. You don't see anybody else.
Do you walk into the ring thinking, I'm gonna kill this guy, or you walk into the ring thinking, I'm gonna fucking win?
Well, it's never personal. It's never about the opponent.
Because that's very different than Mike Tyson. Because Mike Tyson famously, especially that one time that fight when he just came out of jail.
Yeah.
He even said in an interview, "I'm just here to kill him."
Yeah. Well.
Yeah, exactly. It's so terrifying to me when I think about that.
True. It is terrifying. I never want to fight Tyson. But speaking about that, yeah, when I enter the ring, I don't even think about the opponent. I think of myself having the best performance I can. Now that's if my opponent was a world champion, or if my opponent was my teammate, I would focus on having the best performance I can perform in that specific day, in that specific ring.
Do you before the match starts, say you have a few months before, would you personally sit down and try to find videotapes of either training or fights that opponent did?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So there is an aspect of that to try and to understand the psychology of your opponent,
Oh yeah.
how he
definitely.
fights,
Of course.
what his rhythm is.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, especially international fights, because you won't see much videos of boxers who are unknown, who are just like.
That's your blessing, I guess, right? From being Bahrain, right? That's your
Yeah,
blessing.
yeah.
Not a lot of opponents can look up your fight, so you're going in there, right?
Yeah, exactly.
They know you know everything about your opponent in that ring, but they don't know nothing about you, son. I love it.
Yeah, that's a good point actually. But when I fought the world champion from Azerbaijan, it was a draw. It was an international boxing tournament in Turkey, in Istanbul. It happened last year, 2021, on March. So when I went there and they've drawn, like it was a draw, and I was matched with this world champion, ex-Olympian, and he was like a top predator in the amateur world, you know. So when I was matched with him, and I was told by my coach that, oh Ali, you're fighting this person, he's a world champion, he's this and that, I was ready to go. You know, I didn't back up or anything. I said, okay, sure, that's the experience I'm looking for.
I'm going to kill him.
Yeah, I didn't back up at all. And then we had the privilege of having his fights on YouTube and everything, because obviously he is out there and he's known. So yeah, we saw his videos. I came to know about his style. He was a Southpaw, I believe, and he was a come forward fighter. So we had some strategies put in place to box. And that was the toughest fight, I'd say.
I would imagine so.
Yeah, it was the toughest fight. Yeah.
Did you talk to him after to get some key points on how he became an Olympian athlete and how that changed it?
He didn't speak English.
Not at all.
Not at all. Yeah.
You couldn't find someone who was a translator.
From Azerbaijan, no, they didn't speak English.
Shit.
So we just did the sign language, like, yeah, poop, fist, good job. Well, yeah, I mean, but yeah, it was a learning curve, definitely.
So when you fought him, could you how big of a difference skill wise is it compared to the athletes that you find here in the Gulf region?
In terms of skills, I wouldn't say he was a really skilled boxer, but I would say he was a damn experienced boxer. He had the experience, you know.
Okay.
And that's the difference. When a person is a fighter who has the experience, is different than a boxer who is training in the gym and acquiring the skill. Because you might be so skilled, but when you enter the ring, you would need the experience of fighting, and that's completely different. As I said, you have to tap into your higher self to be in that zone of fighting, you know. To be honest, boxers and fighters, they're no different than gladiators in the past, because you have to conquer that fight or flight mode. You have to put yourself there. At the end of the day, I don't have to box, but I choose that because it gives me that the fighting spirit, or that aspect that I need.
Because something interesting that you just brought up, and it really dawned on me as well, that being a boxer who fights Olympically and being a professional boxer are two very different shoes.
Yeah, it's very different.
Right? And although it's the same sport and maybe even the same point system, and maybe even, who knows, you could get the same judges who might be on both fields, the level of skill and your presence and your whole not just the atmosphere, your intentions are so very different. You know, one you're representing yourself, and the other you're representing a country.
True.
Right?
Yeah.
And
exactly.
And
which one do you find more interesting?
Interesting as a viewer, or interesting as an individual?
As an individual. Which one do you think is... Well, sure, give me both perspectives.
So I from watching, I would more likely watch a professional boxer than I would watch the Olympics, just because it's the Olympics, right? Yeah. I wouldn't even know when and what and where, because it's also really badly marketed, you know?
True.
There's a big aspect of that as well, right? And how often does a boxer fight in the Olympics, and how often can he professionally fight? If he doesn't get hit too many times, 3 to 4 times a year, I'd imagine, if not more. Mm. And how often do you get to fight in the Olympics? Once every 4 years, or however many times you get to move up in that category.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, there's obviously that is an issue. But personally, I'd still say professional would be more interesting to me.
Yeah, professional is the mainstream media that boxing is experiencing, you know? It's the WBCs and all of that. I mean, all of the viewers are having... They know people like Floyd Mayweather, Canelo,
exactly,
these guys, because they are in the mainstream media, which are also sanctioned with, you know, the WBC, Showtime, etc. So that's why people are mostly drawn to that. The Olympics, I'd say it's more of a pedigree kind of, let's say, an achievement that a boxer can have, because if you're an Olympian going to professional boxing, then you would have you would have a better experience, and your climb in that ladder would be much more easier, just because you have the pedigree, you know, like you came as an Olympian, so you should be able to box.
Sure.
You know, because professional boxing, did you know that me and you today, we can turn pro tomorrow by just going to Dubai and signing a contract?
It's not just, well, you also have to get a boxing license, obviously.
Yeah, of course.
Right? And then you can get that contract to sign.
But it's that simple. Anybody can turn pro, but not anybody can go to the Olympics.
Sure.
So, you know, that's why being an Olympian is just a big upgrade.
I mean, it's a status symbol, definitely.
Yeah.
I think, I don't know how much it benefits you further on your career as from a professional boxer like perspective.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, maybe in the marketing material, if you won gold medal, silver, bronze, whatever, maybe they use it like, Ali fighting blah, 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 former Olympian champion of boxing. Maybe that makes a difference from a monetary perspective. I don't know if it makes a huge difference from being signed on or not, or whatever else. But I also am not in the industry. So
yeah.
I'm just thinking from a marketing perspective, right?
From a marketing perspective, I think, it does. It has a significant impact on your reputation going to professional. You know? And I'd say from an individual perspective, if I'm an Olympian, I know for a fact that I'm competent. You know?
Sure.
I'm competent for professional boxing, and you know, confidence, if you're confident and competent, you can go to the professional pathway easily.
I agree.
So being competent is a very big aspect. And how can you have that? Of course, if you're an Olympian, you definitely have that competence, ability to box. And
sorry, Dan. Sorry to interrupt you. Can you look up? There's a really expensive gym in America. I'm trying to remember their name. Can you look up on Google? Dan, can you look up most expensive gym in America? I really have your Instagram even loaded up for you.
It's okay. Yeah.
Or maybe most expensive gym brand?
It's not the TMT?
No, Habibi. There's a very famous gym that they hire former Olympian Equinox. That's the one. Can you look that up for me?
$26,000 for a year. What the hell?
Yeah, membership. Just type in Equinox. You just have to type in Equinox. See, you just click on that link. So
Equinox.
This is one of the top gyms, I think, in the US. They have a few branches in London as well. What's so special about them is that their personal trainers are, I wouldn't say majority, but a good percentage of them are all former Olympic athletes.
Mm-hmm.
And so maybe whatever.
Do they allow their boxers to compete? Like, do they have
such
programs?
Yeah. So
It's not just training for fun.
No. It's they
or training for fitness.
Yeah, absolutely. They even have sleep coaching. I don't know what that is, but they do have sleep coaching. But yeah, I think from a perspective of the boxer, so they have like different tier levels. So and it's like a monetary number. So like one trainer costs X.
I like that actually. I'm interested in this.
I can send it over to you if you like.
Sure.
So you don't have to even take a picture.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I know that if you're a professional, if you're an Olympic athlete, and you then become a coach with them, they invite. I mean, you can apply, and then they go through a training course of how they want you to represent their brand and stuff like that. And I want to say, so don't quote me on this, but I want to say that an Olympic athlete coach makes per hour around 800 BD?
Probably. I think
something like that.
Yeah, probably.
Something between 800 to...
I haven't researched that, but I believe my previous coach was well paid.
So it's between... Yeah. That's per hour, and it's all clients are one-to-one?
Wait a minute, 800 BD per one session?
Per hour, yeah.
Oh, okay. So I did not know that.
So anywhere between 800 BD to 1,000 BD. But don't quote me on it because I could be wrong, and I might very well be wrong. But yeah, they make good money.
Yeah.
Can you go back to the Google search? And I think their coaches, they call them X coaches or Coach X. And then just type in on Google search Coach X or Olympic coaches. Just the same thing. Just no, Danny. Yeah, and then at the end, just put Coach X.
By Equinox.
Best personal trainers, Tier X fitness coaches. Yeah, that's the one. I might be totally wrong with the pricing, by the way. Can you scroll down? This is just a video. Real life, blah, 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 blah. 1 year scientific research confirmed, blah, 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 blah. Okay, down. Did they have a cost or anything like that associated to it? This is just further marketing. Yeah, they don't even mention the price, so it's got to be expensive. My dad used to say that to me. My dad always used to say, if it doesn't have a price, it's too expensive for you. And now in my 30s, I tend to agree with you, Dad.
You do agree?
I agree 100%. If it doesn't have a price listing, I don't want it.
It reminded me of my experience in Harrods, man. And I went there, just was checking the bags in Harrods in the UK. They didn't have any price tags, so I was asking them like, how much is that? And the person working there was explaining to me the deep history of how this particular bag was made, like the crocodile leather, and how the crocodile was living in the forest, and then they caught the crocodile and it went to the factory. And I was like, okay, how much is it? And he was like, it's 60,000 pounds. I was like, oh, okay. Do you have a specific color? You know, do you have this particular color? And he said no. I was like, oh, sorry, I don't want.
I love how you. What question? I was like, well, that's too expensive.
Yeah. Just tell him about an impossible color. He'll most probably say no. So that's a good.
So what if he said yes? Then he would have. I have to think about it.
Yeah. Do you have bags that could fly? No. Okay, sorry, I'm not interested. I'm not interested.
How much are you willing to pay, sir? We can figure something out. Shit. I mean, I remember. So one of the businesses I almost started with a friend.
Yeah.
Was in textiles and denim jeans, and to do market research, we went to Harrods to look at some of the jeans there, because we wanted to do an up brand thing. They had jeans there that were somewhere between 5 to 10,000 BD.
Why?
Just the one pair of jeans, and I was asking the guy about it. I was like, "What's so great about these jeans?"
Yeah.
He was like, "Listen, you don't understand. They've already been worn for like 5 years." And I was like, "Wait, what?" That's what I was like. Is somebody famous for it? And he was like, "No. Jeans get better as they're worn. They're like aged wine." And so they buy these like worn jeans, and then they wash them and all kinds of stuff, and then they sell them for like exorbitant amount of money. I had that same face expression as you did as well.
Well, did you get convinced?
No, I was upset and I walked out. I was like, this is nonsense. Get out of here.
What's the name of the shop?
Harrods. It was downstairs.
Oh, Harrods as well.
Yeah.
Okay.
Where else are you going to find that kind of nonsense?
Yeah, true.
Right? Well, Harrods or Selfridges. That's the only two places that has crazy stuff.
I do value quality, to be honest. Like, that's one of the things that...
You want to buy a pair of jeans that's been worn for 5 years? That's high quality right there.
No, that's something that... Well, I mean, it might be high quality to an other segment, but yeah, I would invest in stuff that are high quality, but also being realistic, you know.
Dan, look that up. Why are worn jeans so expensive? Isn't that amazing to have, Dan?
So are we all? Do we have like 10,000 dinars because?
We get our old jeans, you mean? As popular leisure wear, an increase in sales has decreased, so designers have brought back vintage style dress jeans as a way to increase prices and appreciate exclusivity. In the end, basic economic driven of new fashion trends. So I don't know what that doesn't really answer my question. Yeah, well, Dan, you keep finding my answer to what I'm looking for, and we'll keep having a conversation.
Yeah. Okay.
Don't click your tongue. He got upset. Zal. So I was like, just let me be on my phone.
Yeah. That's the thing. Like, is this a product development strategy, or is it like a market development?
I don't know. It's just, I think, a way to make things exclusive and justify a higher price. Can you type in $5,000 jeans? I know Fear of God brand does these.
Fear of God.
Yeah, they're like a street fashion brand. Cheap, 3,000 BD. You can.
Wow. No, man, that's just.
Get 3. The $900 jeans rich guys can't stop wearing. The most expensive jeans in the world.
I wouldn't buy that. Would you buy that?
For 3,000? No, fuck off. What am I? You can buy a car. What am I gonna do with 3 jeans?
To me, it doesn't make sense, but it might make sense to other people. So.
It's not gonna. Can you open the Fan Fetch $8,000 jeans? It's on the left. The first one on the left. Up, left. That's right. That's the one. Oh, perfect. Oh, Mumtaz. To be honest, you know what? I have to admit something.
What?
They do look like money.
They look good.
They look like money. I don't know if they look good, but I like if somebody would be wearing them and coming up to me, I would look at those jeans and be like, yeah, they probably cost money.
Yeah.
I wouldn't think they cost almost $10,000 fucking dollars, right?
But you would think it would be kind of expensive.
I would think like $500.
Yeah.
Right? I would think like maybe 200 BD jeans. That's I wouldn't think like if somebody would come up to me and be like, yeah, no, $10,000.
I would be that guy's best friend, you know?
Really? I would be terrified of that guy. If he's willing to pay $10,000 for a pair of jeans, then I don't know where we're going to be.
Yeah, true. To be honest, I would take that same amount and invest it in myself.
But what happens if he leaves you with a bill? Like you go out for dinner or something like that? شفت وشك الحين.
Oh man.
Wait, you don't want to pay $30K for our dinner? Ali, what's going on?
What's going on, Ali?
Exactly.
No.
Exactly.
You don't have to spend this much to look good. I'd say investing in good quality clothes is necessary.
I'm with you 100%.
But I don't know. Would you? I mean, it just doesn't make sense having that amount of money paid for a material that could be replaced with a decent pants for more than half of the price.
I love the idea of buying them and then putting on like 5 kg so you can't wear them anymore because you're too fat.
Imagine that would suck now. That would suck, man. Wallah. And then you have to cut a portion of that pant to pay a personal trainer.
Or to train you, or the other way, right? You're just about to compete, right? You won the match, whatever. You've been on hardcore weight loss, and now your favorite pair of jeans that you spent all that money on, you can't wear because they'll just fall off your pants.
Unless if that $10,000 pants could be flexible and it could match my.
No. That one is 15K.
Oh, should not 30K?
Yeah. Wait. If you want the flexible ones, I mean, that's premier. We can't offer you these ones.
Come on, like 30K.
Can you show me what else this Farfetch brand has? I want to see some more of this stuff. I like how it has a sale.
Does it have a sale?
Yeah, let's look at their sale. Let's look at their sales. Let's look how cheap it is. Oh, perfect.
30%.
$800 for a pair of slippers. Ape.
Well, buying this t-shirt will give you the faith that it is good quality. Like when you touch it and you put it on, you can at least trust that it will be good quality.
No, I don't believe that. I don't believe that for a second, Habibi. I think this is just like branding nonsense. I think it's just name.
Yeah.
I don't think the quality is good. In fact, if you like, I can introduce you to a friend of mine. She worked for Chanel as a designer. And she was telling me the last thing that Chanel cares about is quality.
Really?
It's all about branding. She said you'd be surprised on how many like high-end goods. She can like show you the stitching of clothing and point you out when is like a cheap stitching and when is an expensive stitching.
Yeah.
And she said like most of these like high-end brands have terrible stitching.
Wow.
Most of them, yeah.
Whoa. Is it really terrible?
That's what she said. I mean, I can ask and get confirmation.
Yeah.
We can do some. We can do a research and get like 2 or 3 shirts at different price points. Do a real investigation and a study on it.
That's the thing, because even Nike, as simple as Nike, if you buy a t-shirt that they sell basic t-shirts like white t-shirts with a swoosh on it, right?
Yeah.
If you remove that swoosh, that t-shirt would cost you $1 dinar.
Yeah, exactly. Instead of 10
dinar.
dinar.
Swoosh is 20.
Exactly.
So we really actually, we're not buying the t-shirt. We're buying that brand, that
label.
That swoosh, exactly. Yeah. And branding is really powerful,
Where would you wear this? Yani,
oh, I like this, to be honest. I would wear this.
But where, Habibi? Who would let you in? Bushido's not going to let you in. They're going to طالع عليك. They go, روح البيت. What are you wearing his sleeping clothes for?
Sleeping clothes. Okay.
Don't you think so? It looks like a pajama.
Yeah, it does to a degree. True.
I don't think Valentino is going to sue us for talking bad about their company.
But to be honest, I wouldn't mind wearing such clothes for specific events. I won't mind it.
Yeah.
I'm flexible towards clothing, to be honest.
Yeah.
So if you want to buy,
you have it
to me, bro. Go
Habibi, you're worrying me. This is the attitude that so many boxers have, and then they go broke, and they're like, that's exactly that attitude. As soon as they make money, they go to Valentino and fucking buy this nonsense.
Well, yeah. I mean, it does kind of. It looks like a pajama, شوي, صح?
Habibi, where would you wear this?
But you know what does this give as an impression? It gives an impression that this guy doesn't give a shit about people.
Yeah.
And he's here for his own self or comfort, you know?
Okay.
So
That-
it has that vibe to it, huh?
So you want to wear in something that people would look at you and then be like, oh, he doesn't give a shit about people here and doesn't show them any respect, anything like that?
If anybody comes here, I'm going to tell them, do you guys know how much I get this for?
Yeah.
You know?
And then they laugh at you.
Yeah. They'll bully me and then I'll box them.
You're full circle.
Well, yeah, I mean, yeah, if I saw a guy who's wearing that, I'd be interested, you know? Like, I would want to know what's wrong with him, you know?
First,
like, I'd want to know about his choice of decisions. Like, why did he decide to wear that?
what led to that point in
Yeah.
his life that he feels like he has to go in pajamas out and about in town?
Yeah, and it's a character, right? He stands out, so it's a nice thing.
But do you really want that kind of attention, though? Think about it. Like let's give it a second to think about, right? You finished your boxing match, right? Mashallah alaik,
Yeah.
golden Olympic, everything, boxing, woo! You go for your tour, autograph signing, and then you're wearing this.
Yeah, interesting. Well,
Or-
to be honest, wallah, يعني, I don't mind it, to be honest. Especially if I have a... Like,
So political of you. I love it.
والله ما عندي مشكلة والله. Like, even my sisters, like they always tell me that, oh, you're a kind of person who doesn't, like, you have the courage to dress in whatever way, you know. I do have, not this specifically, but a specific type of clothing that's a short with this kind of t-shirt up top, and I do wear it, but not everywhere, specific places.
You know what it is? It's this Hawaiian design.
Yeah.
Right, and you either are two people. You're either kind of two kind of people who wear this kind of clothes. Either you're a billionaire, or you're broke. That's the only type of people.
No in between.
There is no in between. You know, there's no guy who's working 9 to 5 in an office. You know, that goes out like this. It's one or the other.
Yeah.
It's one or the other. Either you're bankrupt or you're a billionaire.
Yeah, true.
Right, and it's the roll of the dice because they're often exactly the same.
Yeah, but you know, these type of clothes, they look different in reality. You know, when you see them in reality, they would have a different kind of texture to it.
Sure.
It might reflect the quality of the clothes.
Try it, Habibi. Try selling
try
it.
it.
You're trying to sell it hard.
I'm trying to convince you to buy
To
this
buy it.
to me. Yeah.
Yeah, mumtaz. So you can walk around in pajamas. But no place is gonna let you in. You think that the whatever, what's that club called again? By the Ritz, Trader Vic's.
Uh-huh.
Do you think Trader Vic's is gonna let you in dressed like this?
I think we'll have to bring a second outfit.
Outfit, exactly. Yeah, just in case.
Yeah.
They won't even let you in with shorts, so they're not gonna let
Right?
you in with pajamas.
Ministries in Bahrain don't allow you with shorts for a reason.
Yeah,
Did
yeah.
you know that?
I don't know why. ليش يعني they're so against it, especially بالصيف.
ما ادري ليش يا اخي صدق غريب بس اخر مره دخلت الشرطه
ايه
كنت مضطر انه اروح الشرطه ورحت مع شورت
ايه
وقالوا لي اخوي ما يصير تجيني بشورت قلت له ايش تبي انت أنا الحين عندي مشكله يعني خلي شورت على صوب الحين
ايه
قلت له ما كنت اعرف بس كان عندنا مشكله وفعلا كان there was a problem. I had to fight back a thief that entered my friend's home. Not fight back, but I had to be there. So we had to go to the police station to like inform them about the situation. So I went with shorts because obviously I wasn't planning to go to the police station. They asked me like, "Oh, you can't wear shorts here." I told them, "Well, I have a problem today, so excuse me. Someone's dying, so excuse the shorts, yeah."
Promise it won't happen again. هو وش فكر يعني you're coming there for a job interview and he's giving you يعني kind advice. He's like شوف
حد العالم بكبره قال لي اخوي ليش لابس شورت
وقلت وطالع يقول 45 درجة بقى يعني it's 45 degrees outside. I don't know. Did he want you to come in with ثوب وعطر قال ويعني مؤدب شوي.
The thing is كان الساعة 3 الفجر يعني it was late at night, so going with غطرة وعقال would be
I like the idea of you showing up at 3 a.m. in the morning, right? And then he's like, you know what? Dress a little better if you're coming here. This is not يعني this is مش بيت أبو أمك.
والله العظيم أقول لك.
It's not your cousin's house. Why are you coming here dressed like this? Go back home, put on your pajamas, come back again.
Come back.
But there's some crazy stuff. There's some crazy stuff. I don't know. I don't know. Are you at all worried ever in your life that you're going to be in a position that somebody will request of you to get a fight fixed?
A what? Sorry?
Fight fixed?
A fight fixed?
Yeah.
What does that mean? Sorry.
So that you go down at X round.
Like, no, I wouldn't, to be honest. If it's anything that's not internationally standardized and etc., I wouldn't accept.
Because there's been a lot of talk that supposedly the recent fight that Mike Tyson had. People are, I mean, this is the problem, right? Once a fight has ever been fixed, now everyone thinks that every fight is fixed.
It's fixed.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I always wonder from the perspective of an athlete, you know, what happens if your coach or your organization or your representative says, hey, you know what, Adi, if you don't go down in the third round, not a problem. You're just not going to get another fight. Do you know?
Okay,
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because I don't think because the last person who I think intentionally does it is a fighter.
True.
Right?
Yeah.
It's all the organizations on top of it, and because there's not a lot of scrutiny. You know, there's no checks and balances put in place. There's no reviews done. Nobody knows exactly how the setup is. You know, that's
You're talking about a scenario where the fight is fixed, meaning the opponent, like, they know who will win.
Exactly.
Right? Okay. Yeah. Well, I don't like this idea, to be honest. And what do you think about that? It's just a waste of time for people watching it, right?
No, my thinking is that I'm the most person that I'm worried about is the fighter in that scenario. Because the fighter, right, he doesn't get a decision. Because either you do it or you're out of a job. Right? It's not him setting up the scheme.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so that's what really hurts me. And if the crowd or the public ever finds out, who do they blame?
True. However, do you think in that particular fight, do you think the boxers know that the fight is fixed?
I think so. Wasn't there a famous case? Can you look up who was Mike Tyson's manager? You remember that there was that short black guy with his hair was all crazy?
Short black guy, is he black?
Yeah, he was a black guy with glasses.
I know Cus D'Amato was his coach.
That dude. Yeah. Didn't he fix fights? Can you look up his name? Don King? By the way, if he didn't fix fights, we're gonna have to obviously take this part out because I don't want to get sued by Don King.
He had to fix his hair.
Yeah. Yeah, he did steal as well. He stole money from Tyson as well.
Did he?
Yeah, it says it right there.
Oh.
Partly due to manslaughter convicted, several cases against him, allegation of dishonest business practices by numerous boxers. Can you type in fight fixer or if he fixed any fights? Yeah, he's a promoter, but I'm just wondering if he also fixed them.
I really, despite the external figure of how boxers are treated, like let's say, I don't know how to call it, but they're like they treated like the. Do you know a hen fight? Have you seen a hen fight?
Yeah.
Some boxers are treated like just another commodity.
Yeah.
And the organizations and the people who are involved, the managers, they're taking the upper hand and controlling the paychecks and everything. And that aspect I just hate in the professional boxing world. Like the boxer has no control, has no power. And then when you hear stories like Floyd Mayweather, when he chose to become his own boss instead of having a manager above him, where you get inspired, because boxers should be the people that are having the most amount of control in terms of how much they get paid and what to accept, what to not accept, etc.
Listen, one of the things that this touches exactly what you're saying. A lot of people who sit in your chair, I hear a lot of the same rhetoric or statements going, wasta this, wasta that. I cannot get this because of wasta, and I cannot do this because of, lack of wasta. And I always think to myself, and I also say this a lot of the times, this is not just Bahrain. Kull al-alam is like this. The whole world is all like this, right? It's all about who you know, right? If you're a fighter and you already know a fight promoter, then your chances of making it is much higher than a guy who's a fighter who doesn't know anybody, right? Yeah. And this is haya, this is the life, right? And the same thing with what you're saying, in that if you're a fighter like Mayweather and try to start your own company, the rest of the industry is going to shun you. Why? Because they don't want their fighters to start getting any clever ideas and start being their own promoters.
Yeah.
Right?
True.
So there's a very famous thing with Netflix as well that you bring it up, with a movie director who produced 3 different movies for Netflix, but he wasn't allowed to do the distribution. Distribution basically meaning that that they hire voice actors to do different voices for different languages. In Arabic and English and Chinese, whatever. Chinese isn't a language, but Mandarin.
Yeah.
So and they also do, the resolution, because when you watch a Netflix show on your phone, it's different than we watch it on a TV, meaning that it has to be rendered again for a different format, right? And so that's what a distribution company does. Netflix only has about 7 or 8 distribution companies that they work with. And if you're a film director, they'll pay you money, you can do your movie, and if you come to them and say, hey, you know what? I want to distribute it. I can do the stuff that you need me to do. I can make sure it's in all these languages. I can make sure it's all this. They'll say, no, forget about it. We don't want it. Forget about it. Right? You can choose one of these 7 or don't produce the movie. Interesting, no?
That's actually interesting.
But that's Kull al-Haya like that. That's everywhere.
That's everywhere, yeah.